Hola, bienvenidos amigos. Hello and welcome friends. Steve here, Street Smart Travel, coming at you from Pasto, Colombia, up on the farm. Today, an episode that I'm going to unpack basically the on the ground episode that I released, the short 5-minute video, which was a quick start about 3 sample pathways for volunteering, and especially volunteering in the developing world while traveling. Now, I will be giving you much more information on those 3 existing paths, and I'll put a link to that video below if you want to see the 5-minute version versus the much longer version this one's going to be. And at the end of this video, I will include a bonus 4th pathway. Any comments or questions, please drop them below. Happy to go deeper on any of these. This episode came up because somebody was asking, how do I start this immediately? Okay, here's some ways you could get out on the road today, literally. These are just 4 of many different pathways to volunteering. You could choose one of these 4, try it out. Maybe it's a fit, maybe it isn't. Maybe move to a different one, pivot to a different one. And also, these are just 4 of the more popular ones that I've found in about 3 years of doing this. Now, it's important to note this is about serving people first. It's not about what can I get, although there are rewards for doing it. In my case, full room and board. But the point is, how can I help this person solve a problem? Start with that mindset as opposed to what's in it for me, a more transactional approach. If you take that approach, you can make this work, but you're going to burn out pretty quick. Whereas if you start with a service-based model and ask, how may I serve? How can I help solve this person's problem? How can I make a meaningful difference in their life? It's the reward that comes from serving others in meaningful ways. For me, is the whole reason why I do this in the first place. And I found a lot of these volunteer opportunities. There's a huge demand and a very small supply. So I am actually helping these hosts in many ways. How do I know it's a good fit for them? Because when we're done, they offer for me to come back anytime. I have open invitations at, I'd say, probably 6 to 10 of the 25 hosts that I've volunteered with over the last almost 3 years. I can go back there anytime. So they become more like friends. So the more you put in, the more you get out. Now, this video has 4 volunteer paths. And what if you try one and decide, yeah, this isn't really for me? Have you failed? No. You've gotten some feedback and you've gotten real life experience doing something, so you can decide, is this a fit? Do I want to continue doing this, or would I like to try something totally different? It's a way to get different experiences, to learn different skills, to make connections, to solve problems, real world problems that people need help with, to integrate yourself into the community, to get a full immersion experience on a trial basis. If it doesn't work out, if you decide, yeah, I don't really like doing this, just try something different. If you decide none of these are for you, there's plenty of other opportunities. The path of volunteering, of service to others, is basically only limited by your imagination. You can learn skills to do almost anything. And it's not like you're signing up for a period of months or years. You can try it out for a week or 2 weeks and decide if it's a fit, and if it isn't, try a different thing. Go into it with the idea that I'm here to serve, first and foremost, to help this person solve a problem. Volunteer path number 1, volunteering on farms. This is my sweet spot. This is my favorite volunteer gig that I've done so far in almost 3 years. So who is this for? People that enjoy being outside. You don't need to be in the city center surrounded by all the distractions, the traffic, the noise, all that stuff. You prefer to be surrounded by nature, plants, animals, a more rural setting, much more peaceful, and you're okay with doing physical work and getting your hands dirty, because that's what farming's all about. It's also a good way to reconnect with nature and to see how your food is raised, both plants and animals. Why is there such a demand for them? This has been true of every single farm gig I've done, and I've done, I would say, at least 10 to 12 of them over the last 3 years now. Why is there such a demand? It's basically because mom and dad are still on the farm and they're aging out. So they're getting older. Farm work is very physical. Nature never stops. The plants always need attention every day. They need watering, weeding. Sometimes you've got to trim them or clip dead parts off them. Tons of weeding. There's planting, there's harvesting. It's a daily thing, and nature is not going to stop. And if it's not the plants, it's going to be the animals that need to be fed, that need to be watered. Their stalls or coops or pens need to be cleaned, things like that. And some of you, that's going to be absolutely the last thing you want to do, and fair enough. This is not for everybody, but it is for me. I found it to be the best fit of all the volunteering paths that I've tried out so far. Now, the reason, like I said, that it exists is because mom and dad are still on the farm and their kids have long since moved to the city or out of the country in search of better opportunities. They were very clear, farm life is not for them. And fair enough, it's their life. So they may be sending money back to mom and dad to help them out, but they're not physically going to be there to do the work. And as you get older, the physical work becomes too much. For some of the farms I've been to, like there's no bus or taxi service to get there, so it's about an hour walk minimum to get to any kind of store or restaurant or town. So it can be pretty remote at times. And that isn't to say your host won't take you into town now and again, but they're not going to do it every day. So you need to be okay with being out in the countryside. There are some people that are available for hire in the countryside, but there is way more demand than there is supply. So I was on one farm in northern Ecuador, and they would pay $25 a day for a helper who had worked on their farm in the past. Great guy. Now he's married and he's got kids, so he doesn't have a lot of time to be doing this kind of thing. But he would show up for the day, he would join us for breakfast and lunch, and spend the entire day knocking out things that needed to be done on the farm. And here's something else to consider too. Usually on a farm, you'll have a big house, the house for the owners, and then you'll have smaller casitas, so usually self-contained, smaller houses. And usually they're empty. So these people already have the room to house a volunteer or an on-site worker if they can find one. And the problem is that people will do it for a little while, like locals, and then decide, no, this isn't for me, I'm going to try my luck in the city, and they leave and never come back because, again, there's more opportunity in the city, hands down. But you can volunteer, live in the casita, join your hosts for breakfast and lunch, get a full cultural immersion experience, learn a lot about raising food, raising animals, see where the food is coming from, get to take a lot of walks in nature, maybe swim in the river or whatever it is. Each farm is going to be set up a little bit differently. It's a really great way to reconnect with nature and to see that food doesn't just magically show up in the supermarket. So for all of those reasons, I really enjoy doing farm work. Now, there's nothing romantic about it. It is hard physical work, and you're going to be doing it 4 or 5 hours a day. If that's your thing, if you enjoy working outdoors, it's a fantastic gig. The hosts, every one of them, has been salt of the earth, genuine, super friendly, and we usually hang out quite a bit after I'm finished work. After we've done whatever we need for the day, your hosts, like, what else are you going to do, right? There's nowhere to go, so you have free time, and you'll end up hanging out with your hosts. For me, it's a great way to practice Spanish, to learn more about the culture, about the cuisine, about life, living on farms in the developing world. Volunteer path number 2, completely different from number 1, volunteering on farms. This is volunteering in hostels. This is, in my mind, for people like younger travelers, people that enjoy being around other people, their own age, being closer to the action. So instead of being in a rural setting, you're in the city, you're close to nightlife and restaurants and parks and museums and culture and all of that fun stuff. You'll be working with a different group of people, certainly, than you would be on a farm. And why is there a high demand for this? Basically, there's a high turnover. So a lot of the times people will be traveling and staying in hostels and realizing, wow, I'm running low on cash. And the owner might approach them, or they might approach the owner and say, hey, is there an opportunity for me to volunteer here? And that way you could have a place to stay, most likely for free, in exchange for working X number of hours a day. You may also have access to tours and other perks that they put on through the hostel. Maybe they arrange tours locally, maybe they have day trips, and maybe you can put in X amount of time and earn a spot on one of those tours. Or maybe you end up being sort of a chaperone or a translator or something of that nature. A lot of different opportunities available. Now, what are the owners looking for? They're looking for people that are energetic, that are reliable, that enjoy being around other people, and that are going to show up and help them to run their business. That's basically what you're doing in this role. How do you know if it's a good fit for you? Do you enjoy being around people? Do you like being closer to the action? And would you like to be meeting people closer to your age, especially, let's say you're in your late teens all the way up to maybe into your 30s? You're going to find a much younger set at hostels in general than you will on a farm. What kind of work are you going to be doing? Pretty much some light cleaning, probably working the desk in terms of checking people in and checking people out, answering simple questions, maybe helping set up travel arrangements, day tours, it might be an airport shuttle, whatever it happens to be, just the kinds of things that tourists and travelers are going to need help with. People in the hostel are going to start with the reception desk at the hostel to look for things that they can do while they're staying in that city. So if you're good with being around people and you're sociable and you want to take advantage of what the city has to offer in terms of nightlife and culture, this is a fantastic gig. And it could be 4 or 5 hours a day. Probably not going to be that demanding. You don't need any specific skills. They will train you for what you need to do. So if that sounds like a fit, certainly worth trying it out for a week or two, a way to integrate into the backpacker culture and to make more connections while you're traveling on the road than you would if you were staying in hotels. And by the way, you're not going to know if any of these are a real fit. You'll have an idea of what is involved and I can explain it, but until you actually physically do these things, you're not going to know, is this a fit? Is this something I would enjoy doing? There's no harm in my case, volunteering, saying, okay, let's try 2 weeks on whatever the gig is, and within 2 weeks I'm going to know if this is a fit, something I want to continue doing or not. And if it is something I want to continue doing, then I can stay longer in a lot of cases or find other gigs that offer that same opportunity. So basically, it's a great way to sample a lot of different kinds of skills, learn a bunch of new things, and decide, do I want to do more of this or would I prefer to be doing something else? Path number 3 is teaching English. Huge demand. I have gotten dozens of invitations to do this. I actually have a TESOL certificate, Teach English as a Second Language. You don't need that. I got one years ago and then a better opportunity came up and I ended up never using it. So who is this path for? Somebody that enjoys teaching, somebody that is okay with being in front of a room full of people, and that might be 5 people, that might be 15, it might be 30, that might be little kids, teenagers, adults. Everyone's going to be a little bit different. You don't need to bring your own lesson plans. They're going to have everything you need there. There's going to be the curriculum, lesson plans. They may have day trips set up or games. If it's for kids, there'll be different ways to teach English. Basically, they're just looking for somebody who is a native English speaker to practice conversational English with their students. If you don't have a lot of patience to explain things over and over again and maybe try and explain them in different ways, maybe not your gig. But if you want to get some experience teaching, volunteering, teaching English in the developing world, there's literally an endless amount of demand. It's just practicing conversational English. They need somebody to practice with who can correct pronunciation, maybe correct grammar, things of that nature. And why does the demand exist for this? Basically, being able to speak English gives you economic mobility. It's a pathway into tourism. So you could, if you get functional English together as a local, you could be guiding tours. You could be working in a hotel or a hostel. There's all kinds of different interactions you can have with tourists, almost all of whom are going to speak English, maybe not as a first language, but they'll speak English more than they'll speak Spanish, in this case, in Colombia. So if you can get people, locals, up to snuff to where they can interact in English competently, communicative competence is what they call it, then that's a huge service and a huge need, and it gives them another opportunity, another economic opportunity in their lives that without that skill, they're not going to have any chance at working in tourism and hospitality. So if you think you would like to try teaching English, it's really easy to find those placements on the road as a volunteer gig, and if you enjoy it, you could up your skills, maybe get a certification, and then decide, yes, this is going to be the volunteering skill that I use going forward. I'll get certified in it, and that way I can make a living teaching English and traveling the world. A lot of people have done that, and they find it to be very, very rewarding. So this is path number 3, teaching English as a second language. This brings us to path number 4, the bonus path that I didn't cover in the short quick start video. This is basically helping people with their online presence. Could be online marketing, maybe setting up a website. It might just be creating some reels, some short videos that you can post on behalf of your host on TikTok, maybe a YouTube short, whatever the platform happens to be, Facebook, Instagram, whatever they want. This is a very in-demand skill. And who is this for? I would say people probably up to the age of 40. So if the internet existed when you were growing up, you are much more tech savvy than somebody from my generation, for example. People my age still use Facebook. Facebook? Wow, that's still around? People younger, 40 and under, would be using Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, whatever it happens to be, and they'll be much more in tune with the different platforms, what's involved, things of that nature. So why does the demand exist? Basically because the host wants to have an online presence and they don't know how to do it themselves. And they're not looking for somebody to do a professional treatment for them. They're basically looking to establish an online presence so that they can drive awareness of and drive customers to their service. That could be a hostel, that could be a business, it could be any number of different things. They see the power of being online, but they're not about to go and learn how to do it if they can have a volunteer show up and get set up and put them online. It doesn't have to be perfect. The fact that you can post some reels and give them an online presence is going to be hugely appreciated. What skills would you need? Basically, if you're good with a phone, taking decent pictures, maybe you can write some copy. Maybe you, like I said, know how to shoot decent videos and edit them together. It doesn't have to be perfect. But here's the power of this one. This exists universally. Everybody's convinced they need to be online. So if you can get them online and communicate with them to figure out what exactly it is they're looking for, show them what you can do, post that, and then they decide, okay, I want something more like this or more like that. Basically, you're getting experience as a digital nomad. Now, it's not a paid gig, but as you build up a portfolio of videos or websites or whatever it is, you can use those to market your skills to get into paid gigs. This is basically a proving ground where you can experiment with, this is what I think online marketing or establishing online presence for somebody involves. Here's the videos that I've done, here's a website I did, here's an advertising piece I did, or whatever it happens to be. You can use that in a portfolio to then approach paid gigs so that you could transition out of volunteering, see if you want to develop those skills, maybe take a course or go deeper on whatever it happens to be, video shooting or editing or copywriting, and then decide to market your skills based on this portfolio that you've created as a volunteer. You don't have to tell anybody you did it on a volunteer basis. Just say, here's the work. Here's some samples of what I've done in the past, and here's what I can do for you. And if you decide you enjoy it and you want to pursue it and get better at it, you could totally carve a path to a point where you could be taking paid gigs and doing the digital nomad gig, which is so popular with the younger types today, again, like 40 and under. So a definite pathway to potential paid gigs and potentially a career if you wanted to take it that far. And if not, if it doesn't work out, worst case scenario is you have real world experience, you tried this thing and decided, yeah, this isn't for me, I'm not going to take that course, I'm not going to go to school for this or spend a bunch of time learning these skills because I tried it enough to know that this isn't a fit. But the corollary is, if you try it out and decide, yeah, I really enjoy this and there's a big demand for it and I can actually make a decent living and be able to set my own hours and travel while I'm doing it, that is a huge reward. Again, it all comes back to what does my host need, learning to communicate with them, showing them what you have put together, what you can put online on their behalf, and then going from there. That's essentially the same thing you would be doing with a paid client, except this is much lower stress, much lower expectations, while you gain some experience and decide, is this a path I would like to pursue? So that is path number 4. Online marketing, creating websites, videos, reels, marketing pieces for a host on a volunteer basis, perhaps leading to paid gigs in the future. So there you have 4 volunteer paths. This is not an exhaustive list. This is just 4 of the more common opportunities that I see people posting and needing help with. So 1, volunteering on farms, my personal favorite. 2, volunteering in hostels, probably aimed at a younger set, maybe late teens up until early to mid 30s, something like that. 3, teaching English as a second language, huge demand, and a way to get some experience teaching in a classroom setting. And number 4 is helping people with their online marketing or online presence, basically digital nomad work. Now, hopefully this has given you an insight into some of what's available in terms of volunteering. I'm doing it in the developing world. There's no reason you couldn't do some of this stuff closer to home. Obviously, if you live in a country where English is the primary language, probably teaching English as a second language, not in as much demand as it is down here. This is limited only by your imagination. Get out there, find a way to serve somebody that you enjoy doing that actually helps another human being, and then reap the benefits from that. In my case, free room and board and basically unlocking infinite travel. Cultural immersion, creating a network. I've got friends that I've made through volunteering and traveling that I've had now for years, and in some cases for decades. So this definitely is something that you could look at doing however you want to do it, close to home, on a part-time basis. Maybe you take it out on the road and you want to learn some skills and learn a different language and a different culture, whatever it happens to be. Just open your mind to some of the possibilities that are available to you. And don't be afraid to take a chance, because if it doesn't work out, it doesn't mean you failed. It just means maybe this isn't the fit that I'm looking for, and I can find it by doing something else, all through serving somebody else in a meaningful way. So again, thank you for stopping by. Hope you learned some things from this video. Happy trails. See you out on the road.